the fighting pride of Omaha, Nebraska, USA.
Whoa, whoa. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Ooh, oh, oh. Yeah, 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 yeah. Tell me what you really, really want, baby. Let it
Who do we got today? Third man in the ring?
Oh my gosh, nobody else but the one and only Thomas Taylor. Thomas Taylor, do you like to go by Thomas Taylor or Tom Taylor?
Thomas.
By Thomas Taylor, the third man in the ring in one of the biggest fights, if not the biggest fights in history. For this last Canelo fight, Canelo
And he's here,
Crawford.
and he's here with us today.
And he's here. He flew in this morning just for us, just for this show. I'm very, very excited to have you here today. Thank you, Thomas.
It's
Thank you.
absolutely an honor to be here, obviously, and it was nice to get the phone call, and I feel very humbled by it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You don't do interviews, do you?
I do not.
You don't do interviews? He doesn't do social media?
I don't.
So
no.
this is such a huge, huge honor. I'm extremely excited. I'm actually pretty nervous to be here right now. I'm like one of your biggest fans. You're absolutely amazing. You
appreciate
are
that.
one of the best, if not the best, boxing referees. But you're not a referee full time, are you?
No, I'm not actually. It's we don't make enough doing this, even though those big fights, you can come across some decent
What?
paydays, but we don't make enough doing this. So no, unless we had a title fight every weekend, four times a month, that could potentially.
Then it would make sense.
But no, I'm an account executive for a lender out of California.
Wow.
So.
Sounds so boring compared to that.
Right? Trust me, it is.
How do you
it's
go
a
back?
Lot more,
How do you
it's
go
a lot
back?
more boring.
How do you go back after a Canelo fight back to your regular 9 to 5 job?
It's funny. People ask me about that. What's the lead up to a fight, and how do you? And I try explaining to people who have been married before can understand this. You've got that lead up to this major event. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to talk to you about it. Your wedding day comes. Fight day is your wedding day. It comes. The fight's absolutely
that's
great,
a really
right?
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the fight's over, and the next day it's back to normal, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, but you
it's
have
fun.
to be recognized from people all over the streets, right? Stop and you ask for questions. And
Sometimes,
questions.
yeah, it happens.
Would you
It
recognize
happens.
him though? Honestly, would you recognize him
Absolutely,
outside
I
of his
do.
uniform right now?
I do, yeah.
It's funny you say that because occasionally I get people who kind of point and look at me like, where do I kind of know him from?
Are you a politician?
And,
Is that the first thing?
Right. No, but it happens, and it's funny when it happens with my son and I. We're going somewhere. It happened at McDonald's one time at a gas station.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
So it's those are the true boxing fans.
Oh
that
yeah,
obviously
I'm
follow
sure after the
sport.
Netflix fight
Yeah.
too. A lot more people
Yeah.
are gonna recognize
been,
you. I'm not used to seeing this much skin on you.
Yeah, normally it's the shirt all the way down,
Yeah.
the bow
Yeah,
tie,
same old uniform.
full length pants. So yeah. Anyway.
Wow, what a great event that was. I mean, how was it for you? How was that whole experience for you? I mean, we're not going to mega fight.
You guys,
right?
it's the largest crowd to ever see a live boxing event in United States history.
Huge.
I mean, we had
70,000?
almost 72,000 people in there.
Huge.
And I'll tell you, I was fortunate to come in on Tuesday, so I got to experience that whole fight week, the lead up, the weigh-ins, the media, everything like
You
that.
get to go to all of them here?
Well, I don't. They typically don't want us at the weigh-ins as far as officials, but I'll sit in the crowd and I'll watch the weigh-ins. But in the lead up this whole week to be here on Tuesday, I actually did fights on Thursday for Crawford's his little series that he has, the Underdog series. So he has the Underdog series. So he had two events, Wednesday and Thursday night at Fountain Blue. At the
yeah.
theater.
Fountain Blue,
Yeah.
yes.
And so I was able to work the event on Thursday. I
Wow.
worked one fight there. Great event, great promotion. They used Bash Boxing actually to come in and do a production. You guys should have been there.
Dang it.
They did, picture the theater inside Fountain Blue. They had murals up against the wall that made it look like you're downtown New York City almost. The ring is in the middle of the street. You have yellow lights, so it looks like 1920s, 1930s.
It's like theatrical.
Oh, it was so unbelievable. And then up on stage, they had like West Side Story. So they had the Sharks against the Jets or whatever it is, right? And they had two old cars up there.
Wow.
And it just, the production that went into it was just off the charts.
Wow.
Well, that's a great venue. I don't know if you've ever done an event
I
there,
have.
but
I have.
yeah,
Yeah.
what a great venue to
I
watch
haven't been
boxing.
there.
It's very intimate.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of venues like that, here in Vegas that with that theater style.
Sure.
But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible.
So
But
you were here
then-
all week.
But yeah, I was here so basically all week, yeah. And then to lead up to Friday with the weigh-ins. And then, of course, Saturday just was unbelievable.
Well, so I mean, what does it feel like being in front of 70,000 people? I mean, yeah, you're in your zone as a ref, right? You have to be in your zone, but you know, we were talking about it in the last show. It's not like you're in an arena and you're hearing a crowd. You're hearing a roar. I mean, there's 70,000 people.
Well,
right.
This is where one of my disabilities comes in hand, and I call it a disability, but I have a problem filtering out background noise. So although I hear it,
wow.
I can't hear it, if that makes sense. So when I get in the ring, especially on an event like this, and actually anytime I do a major fight, you know, one of my earlier mentors, Pat Russell, said, make sure when you get in there, you always take a look around and just soak it all in and then do your job.
Yeah.
So same thing last Saturday night. You know, I got in there, 70,000 plus screaming and yelling. But once the bell rang, it was my focus was red corner, blue corner, call the fight the way it's supposed to be called, and I honestly couldn't hear anything.
So
What
that
a
was your
talent.
second Canelo?
My second Canelo fight, I did the fight with him and Jaime Munguia about a year and a half ago on Cinco de Mayo.
Weekend. T-Mobile, was it T-Mobile?
It was T-Mobile.
Yeah, T-Mobile.
Yeah,
I was there.
A great crowd. I mean,
Same.
talk about a loud and just an amazing crowd for that one as well. So that was my second Canelo. It was my first Crawford fight. Yeah.
And you've done some big fights.
I've been very fortunate. I've been very blessed. Yes, I've been
Madison
putting
Square
some-
Garden not that long ago as well, right?
You know,
You're
and
in
it's
New York
funny.
as well now.
I've talked about how, you know, one of my bucket lists was always get out to Madison Square Garden. I mean,
Oh,
you
my
know, the history of
gosh.
fights in early United States were all Madison
MSG,
Square Garden.
yeah.
Square Garden.
So I was in France doing some filming for an upcoming reboot of a TV series, and if we can always talk about that if you want. But when I got back, or actually before I got back, I got the call to come out to Madison Square Garden and do my first event ever in Madison Square Garden, which was just unbelievable.
Can't
to
even
walk
imagine.
in, to
Yeah.
walk into that.
So much history.
I mean, just to
Yes.
walk in and see all the banners from all the championship teams, from hockey to basketball, and now I'm doing a fight there, you know, with MVP promotion. So it was definitely special.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
incredible.
Wow.
So wait, hold on a second. So I heard France. So what were you doing? Wait, you were doing a movie?
So I can talk about it, but I can't talk about the results. But
okay.
now that I've my non-disclosure I signed.
Ooh, non-disclosure. We
but,
get an exclusive.
So I was approached back in May about being the lead referee or head referee for the reboot of the 1990 series American Gladiator.
Whoa.
So they had me come in and do.
Oh my God.
They had me come in and do an audition, and fortunately, they liked what I was able to do at the audition, and flew over there. Took the whole month of June off, excuse me, from boxing and from work, and filmed 2 seasons over there over 23 days, 2 episodes.
Are you sure you're allowed to talk about that?
I can talk about that.
Wait,
'cause
it was in Paris?
it was just outside of Paris in a little town called Sergi. So it was about Sergi. It was about an hour northwest of Paris. Wow. Yeah.
That was an experience. How was that? Was that
Unbelievable.
like your first time doing anything like that?
No, I did a single episode for the reboot. Actually, apparently I'm the reboot referee, but I did the Quantum Leap. So the first.
Oh, I see. I saw that episode.
Yeah,
Yeah. You haven't seen that episode?
No, I haven't. But
It was
Quantum Leap.
It was Quantum Leap. So remember the old Quantum Leap?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So they did a
like,
reboot.
Quantum Leap, I remember, was back in the 80s.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, they
so
did
they
a
did a reboot
It's on
with it.
Netflix.
It's on Netflix, and I was on the 3rd episode of a boxing episode. So towards the end of the episode, about 3-4 minutes on camera. Absolute blast to do that, and then from that, things started fanning out, and more offers started coming in for other things. So
You see real boxing faces, right, in movies now, like Rocky, right? The old Rocky movies, they're all in there.
Well,
It's
Creed.
Creed.
I mean, I had an opportunity to do Creed 3, but unfortunately, we had a little contract dispute, and I won't get into that. So they went another direction.
Michael B.
But
Jordan.
yeah.
Call me if they need a woman referee.
Is that funny?
I will be
You
there.
know,
I will
my-
be the third man in the ring.
You know, and the funny thing about that is my son and I always have a joke every time we see Creed 3. I look at Michael B. and I say, we could have been best friends.
Yeah.
We could have been best friends. My son's always laughing about it. But no,
Wait.
it's, yeah.
So you mentioned auditioning for American Gladiator.
Yeah.
What does that look like? What do you do?
What it turned out to be is they actually just needed a third person in the competition. So these gladiators that they were testing out had that feel of that third person there. So when they reached out to me, they asked if I had any experience on TV or if anything with fighting, and I went,
Come on, are you kidding?
I'm the Tom Taylor. Hello.
I went, yeah, a little bit. So I sent him my resume, and actually I felt kind of.
I would be so offended.
To be honest, I wouldn't. No, not at all, because they're not boxing people, so
Yeah,
you can't
yeah.
be offended. But
But when they see it,
after
they probably
I sent
they probably felt embarrassed. They're like, oh my God.
Oh,
this guy.
exactly,
absolutely.
Andrew. So after I sent him the resume, and I actually sent a text back right after I sent it, I said, look, I hope that didn't come off as cocky. I'm just sending you my resume. She called me and said, oh my God, we feel so embarrassed. We had no idea who you were. So she's like, no, absolutely. So what basically happens is I just came in, worked with the athletes as they were doing their competitions. And I can't talk about that side of it. But then afterwards, they took me in a back room and did an interview and gave me a really, really nice offer about 3 weeks later. So it's something I couldn't pass up.
Wow.
That resume, I can't imagine what it looks like. How far back does it go?
Well, 2010, 700.
760. What is it?
62
700
now, I think.
764.
764. I've got 114 title fights with 54 of them being world title fights.
Isn't that amazing? You know, the funny thing is
764 what?
Total fights.
total
Fights?
Fights.
Yeah.
How come nobody's talking about this?
Well, hey, one of my closest best friends in boxing and mentor, Jack Reese, retired 1,250.
Yeah.
You know, you got a great guy out of the East Coast where they have a lot of smaller club shows. Bill Clancy, I think he's got like 1,400. So the magic number really is kind of about 1,000,
Wow.
where you can really say, hey, that's
Well,
a great
yeah. I mean,
milestone.
having 1,000
Wow.
fights is one thing, but like you moved fast.
I-
I mean, how? So 2010 November, your first pro show was on the Thompson Boxing
Exactly.
right
Exactly.
card in Ontario, California, at the DoubleTree. I know that venue very well.
Yeah.
I've been there many, many times.
Sure.
For fights. And then a year later, you're at the Staples Center, right? So you're at this
Wow.
small club show, then you're in this major arena. And then that same year, you're not world title fights, but you're starting to, work intercontinental fights, America
Exactly.
fights, right? You're working titles.
Sure.
And just a few years after that, you're with Vic. I think that was your first title fight, Vic Tartinian.
Vic Tartinian, exactly.
Which
Wow.
was in 2015. And I see refs, for the past 15, 20 years. Yeah, you see him, but you don't see him in title fights. Like, you moved really, really fast. So it's not that he only has, not that 600, 700 fights isn't a lot of fights, but you moved really fast. I mean, 50-something title fights? That's crazy.
54 world title, yeah. And then when you add in the silver titles and this and
Silver
that,
title, yeah.
it's up to 114. But
Man.
we're fortunate in California because we do have so many fights and a lot of club shows, so it's easier to move a little bit quicker along. But then I also love the sport and I respect the sport and I'm studying it every day. I mean, I wake up and I think about boxing. My buddies and I, that we talk boxing all the time. We go through videos, we go through scenarios. I mean,
Welcome to our show.
It's
exactly,
addicting.
right?
It's addicting.
It's
That's all
not
we
something
do.
this isn't part-time. I mean, boxing's a full-time job that you just don't get paid full-time.
How did you even get into it?
It was when I was a kid, living in Wisconsin. I grew up in
Milwaukee.
And it's funny, I come from a family of 8 kids, parents that were married for 64 years.
Wow.
And a great childhood, but growing up, for some reason, I was just drawn to boxing. And you'll know, because we're around the same age, this is when they used to put free boxing was on TV.
Wait.
Yeah.
What age is that?
We're in our early 40s.
We're not talking, 35.
35.
How old are you?
I'm 54 years old.
Well, now you're counting my age. I'm
Do you
40, I'm
see
45,
that?
44.
We'll talk about that later.
He looks good for his age.
But growing up, I love the sport of boxing, and we'd watch the free fights.
You're right.
And,
It wasn't. There was back.
Well,
when
you
we
had
were-
closed circuit, and that was for the big ones. But you got free boxing a lot on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing, and for some reason, and
Wild
again,
world of sports. There was boxing.
exactly.
Well,
And
then again, there was only 4 or 5 sports
networks. Yeah, well,
or
and
3 or 4 networks.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
you weren't competing with all this other.
And when
streaming
those
service
fights
and all
were
that.
on, everybody was watching.
Yeah.
Everybody, and if you
know?
weren't, you found out the next day in a newspaper. Because guess what? No social media back
Yep.
then either.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is a whole nother subject.
Well,
that we
let's
dive
talk
into.
about that. Why don't you have social media? I tried searching you, couldn't find you.
I-
Why don't you have
I,
social
um,
media?
It's just to me, it's just not good. I mean, the only social media I have is for work, and that's LinkedIn. But other than that, I just threw it out there.
Is that considered a
Great.
social media?
Well, it's not.
site?
So-
but
wait.
for me, it's you don't. I see guys out there advertising themselves. They're putting themselves, in front of the ring. Look, I'm working tonight or whatever.
yeah.
It's not good for our sport. you know, it's
Interesting.
not about us. It's about the fighters.
Yes.
And the more low profile, at least for me, I'm going to tell you what works for me. The more low profile I can be and out of that kind of, I just don't want the attention.
Yeah. So okay. So back to Milwaukee. You're a kid in Milwaukee. You grew up in Milwaukee. Eight kids.
You
in
know,
the
played
family.
3 sports in
Kids.
high school. I wrestled football and baseball, but just always loved boxing. And, you know, my parents couldn't understand it, my family, because we're all big Green Bay Packer fans. So, of course, I've always watched
Probably
all
a
the
Brewers.
games.
Probably a Brewers fan. Okay. Cubs
But
fan, probably.
No, but Packers all the way. Packers 100%.
He was a cheesehead.
Yeah, 100%.
100%
But
cheesehead.
just going back to it, it was something that I just loved. And, you know, I moved out to California when I was 23 and would have all the big fights at my house and have friends over and fight parties. And, you know, I'm calling out this and
In the
that.
90s,
this
nothing
and
better,
that.
nothing funner.
Nothing
Yeah.
was better. I got here in '94, and I mean, you had great fights all the time, and you know that's when the big beef between Vargas and
De La Hoya.
were going
Yeah.
on the radio every day on Jim
Trinidad
Rome
was
Show or
in the
whatever. Yeah, it
mix,
was
yeah.
beautiful. But yeah, I'd have all the big fights, and just decided, you know, I
Wow.
really want to get into this. You know, I love the sport. I certainly don't want to get hit in the face. So
Yeah.
what's the next best thing? And it was to become a referee, and took a while. Took a lot of.
It's a process. People don't understand the process. It's
Well, just having
this-
somebody call you back.
Well,
you know?
what is the process?
Well, the state of California, it's a process. You don't just
Well,
end
how
up
do
in
you
the ring
become?
one day.
Yeah, how do you
Well,
become a referee?
It's interesting because I was calling Sacramento all the time. You know, leaving voicemails, calling. How do I become a professional boxing?
You and
referee?
hundreds of other people. That's
Exactly.
probably why they weren't calling you back.
I got to a point where, do you remember when they used to have Friday night fights at the Arrowhead Pond?
Yeah, of course.
This is back when the Ducks played there.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
Arrowhead
yes.
Pond. So I bought 4 season tickets, ringside, and every time a referee came out of that ring, I wanted to talk to him. They wouldn't give me the time of day. And I'm thinking, what a bunch of asses, right? I'm like, what's up with this? Why wouldn't somebody want to help? Well, later on when you find out, they're threatened by anybody else coming
Very
into the
hard.
business
Yeah.
because they're worried
Yeah.
about. So anyway, nobody was calling me back. It was a 2-year process. You know, wasn't getting, my letters weren't getting returned. You know, or anything from Sacramento, the athletic commission.
Yeah.
And then I'm at the gym one day, and there's this older gentleman. His name was Tony Kennedy. He used to fight in the 60s and 70s. He would come to the gym in the old leather laced up boots all the way up to the knees,
Yeah,
these big
yeah.
trunks. And I looked at him. I go, you know, we talk to each other once in a while. I go, Tony, you used to be a boxer, right? And he's like, yeah. I go, you know, I've been trying to become a referee in the state of California, but nobody returns my call. And he said, and I won't use the language he used, but he said, F this, call this guy. So he gives me a number.
Wow.
And literally, I cut my workout short. I've got a hot lead now. I've got
Yeah,
a
sure.
number that somebody might actually answer, right? So I go back and I call the number when I get home, and lo and behold, it was the chief athletic inspector at the time, Dean Loheis. And I called him and I said, I'm looking to become a referee in California. He misunderstood what I said, thinking I was already an established referee and I was looking to get licensed in California as well. So he said, hey, just so happens we have a clinic coming up in 2 weeks. Show up at the Doubletree in Orange, and we've got a clinic, a 3-day clinic. Oh, I'm sorry, 2-day clinic. So I'm like, holy crap, this is going to happen, right?
Wow.
You guys, I show up to the Doubletree, and I walk into this place, and I see Kenny Bayless,
Kenny
Tony
Bayless.
Weeks,
Oh,
Jack Reese. I see, and I'm going, and I'm going into boxing royalty here, you know, with officials, and I'm like, holy crap, right?
Hold it in. Yeah.
So I'm just like, sign my name. I go into this big hall, and they make an announcement. All judges in one hall, all referees in one hall. So I walk into this hall, and it's packed. And there's one seat way up into the front, just off to the right. And I walk up, and I looked at the gentleman sitting there, and I said, is anybody sitting there? And he said, no, have a seat. And I looked at him, and I recognized him from TV. I said, you're David Mendoza, aren't you?
Oh man.
Wow.
And he goes, yeah. I said, do we know each other? And he said, you know, do we know each other? I said, no, but I've seen you on TV a lot. He goes, well, have a seat. So I sit down next to him, and he goes, so what state are you licensed with? And I said, I'm not licensed. I'm trying to become a referee. And he looked at me, and he goes, yeah, you're not supposed to be in here. He goes, but you know what? Stay here. If they don't know, just stay here. You guys, he saved me a seat both days, and he kept me there. And I showed up the next day. He had a seat for me again, and he ended up becoming my mentor. My
Wow.
very first
You
mentor.
know, you got to give back. There's always
Andrew.
someone that needs help. You know,
nobody was born to do this. Nobody got here on their own. If I talk about him too long, I'll tear up because the guy was just amazing. He was misunderstood. A lot of people thought he was very brash, standoffish. He was one of the most kindest, gentlest, nicest guys, and just a wealth of information. He had a military background, and he was always rules, 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 and he beat it into me. And I've still got a stack of papers from him, and I've got it laminated because I never wanted to. The first day we were there, he wrote on my tablet, "Keep your mouth shut." And he said, "Just listen." He goes, "You can't learn if you're talking."
Yeah.
And I sat
Great
there for
advice.
2 days. He and I became very, very good friends. He got me into the amateurs at that point. Literally 3 weeks later, I show up to my first amateur event, and I'm timekeeping for the amateurs.
Wow.
And that's where it started. Yeah.
That's inspiring.
So it was
as
amazing. It was
heck.
amazing.
Absolutely inspiring. Well, you're really big on rules.
Huge.
I mean, it's no surprise why you're at where you're at. You're really, really big on rules. Like, what can you explain to us exactly what the rules are? Because there's a lot of people that don't really understand. They still think that boxing, which is mind-boggling. They still think that boxing is all about who hits the most, or
Well,
what
when
are
you're talking
the
about
rules?
rules, you're maybe talking a little bit more about criteria of judging.
No, I'm talking about your rules
about
now
my
for
rules.
refereeing.
So my
yeah.
rules, I mean, we've got a list of them. I mean, we've got quite a few rules, but the big things are, what I usually cover.
Well, like the pre-fight. Tell us about the pre-fight.
Instructions are real
Okay.
simple.
Because that's the rule. Tell us
Yeah,
about the pre-fight.
yeah.
What is that?
My pre-fight instructions are actually, and I'm sorry, it goes away from rules. It's not a rules meeting at all. It is specifically what the fighters can expect from me and what I expect from them.
Where
And
do you
it's-
have it? Like, is this
it's
online?
no.
No.
It's the day of the fight. So before they
Okay,
get
like in their dressing rooms or-
exactly.
okay.
It's either before they get their hands wrapped or just after they get their hands
Okay.
wrapped. But what I'll do is I'll go in there and I'll run through my pre-fight instructions, and what a lot of it is going to cover is when there is a knockdown, how we're going to handle it. What the most common fouls are, which are usually accidental headbutts, rabbit shots, kidney shots, low blows.
Oh my
All right.
gosh.
Then I cover intentional fouls, which I have absolutely zero tolerance for. And I tell them right in the locker room, look,
Yeah.
I've
intentional
seen
fouls.
you mad in the ring.
You're establishing
When you-
your authority right
Ooh,
there,
when he
right?
gets mad
That's
in
where
the ring.
that's where it starts, right?
It is. And I
And
tell
that's
them,
why you get mad, because you have these conversations with them before.
yeah, but I have to tail that back once in a while. I got to
And
be
it's
a little
not just
careful
with the
that.
fighters; it's with the team, right? The guys working
Yeah.
the corner. So keep going.
Corner.
But I tell them, look, intentional fouls, this is your one and only warning right now. I said, I do not give warnings in a ring for an intentional foul. And by rule, I do. I have to take points and, again, potentially disqualify. So when you put that in there early in the locker room, it sets the stage for you when you get in the ring, where you hope your job's a little bit easier. You look, a lot of people say this is where we get our control. I'm not trying to control anybody. I'm managing, what I like to say, I'm managing the chaos.
Yeah.
It's chaotic in there, and we're just trying to manage it. I'm not trying to control anybody, because they're going to do what they're going to do, but we're going to manage it to make sure that we have a clean fight, and certainly make sure the safety of both fighters are the very first priority.
Wow.
He's really big on safety, really, really big on safety. Again, I don't think it's a surprise why you're at where you're at. I will say it again, I think you're one of the best referees.
I appreciate that.
And Andrew says you came up really fast. I don't believe it was fast. I'm sure for us it looks really fast, but you had to work your ass off. What were those numbers?
670, 674?
764.
That
in
is
15 years.
dedication. That is real dedication. And you mentioned something about you got to give back, right?
Yeah.
You do something on the side as well to give back to the boxing
Yeah,
community as well,
it was
right?
interesting. I do a charity event twice a year. We do Sugar Ray Leonard's charity event once a
Love
year,
Sugar Ray.
and we always donate our checks back to his charity. But I also do this thing with these guys who do Cops for Kids, which is a great program out in the inner city, out in the desert. And they put this program on where they have a gym set up for kids where they can come in and do their homework, and then they can train fighting.
Wow.
So they have cops, firefighters, first responders will fight each other, and they put this event on twice a year. So I donate my time there to be the referee for that and make sure these guys are safe. And then we also do a class, a Soul Arbiter class.
That's what I was
Jack
referring
Reed.
to. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was interesting. One of the guys. Let me touch on that real quick. So
Sure.
Jack Reed started a class called Soul Arbiter, which is a 3-day, basically in-depth training session for active referees, amateur referees looking to come into the pros.
Wow.
And what we do is first 2 days we go through just mechanics, rules, philosophies behind what we do and why we do what we do. And then on the third day, we actually put them in a gym with 2 rings. I'll take a ring, Russell Morrow will take a ring, and then we have amateur fighters in there, and we'll give the amateur fighters scenarios, and then the referees have to act on those scenarios when they see them.
Oh my gosh, I want to sign
And then
up
the
for that
feedback,
class.
and then the feedback comes in from
Feedback is
everybody.
unbelievable,
Yeah, that's
but it's
great.
interesting
Could
what
you
you were
imagine?
saying.
Yeah, no,
Is
I
we
mean,
have this past year we do it over Labor Day weekend every year, and it's been out here for the last 2 years. But we had 4 people from Poland, 2 from Switzerland, 1 from Germany. We had 1 from Kenya, and then all over the United States.
Wow.
But unfortunately, we always have to cap it because on that Sunday we only have so much time to put people through so many scenarios. So we kind of cap it usually at 65 or 70 attendance.
and you're
Holy
learning yourself
smokes.
along the way. Like we're always learning in our trades,
Andrew,
right?
it's 100% correct. I'm one of the instructors, and I always pick up 3, 4, 5 more
absolutely.
things every year.
Wow.
It's
Could
amazing.
you imagine getting trained by Thomas Taylor? Like, can anybody sign up for these classes?
Anybody can.
or-
We have people who come on and just they want that referee experience. In
you'll
fact,
find
2
me
years
there
ago
next
we
year.
had a woman buy her husband the referee experience, and he just came to learn.
That's
and he
great.
wasn't ever going to be a referee, but he came and he was with Jack Reese, myself,
what a
Russell
great
Mora.
Father's Day
And it
gift.
was an amazing. And he said
Christmas
he
gift.
told his wife it was the best birthday gift he'd ever gotten.
Wow.
So it was really cool.
So some of the guys, like when you were coming up and you were going through those classes,
Yeah.
right? Who was there? Joe
I'll
Joe
tell you,
Cortez.
and I don't mean to
Richard
sound
Steele.
like this because it's going to sound kind of. There were never classes like this, guys.
What?
I mean, we have pro refs that have been doing this for 28 years go through our class and go, I've never been through something like this in my life. You have to understand, to
That's
get
scary.
to get recertified, a lot of times, you go to the conventions, the WBC, WBO, IBF. You go to the conventions. You sit through a 3-hour seminar.
see you.
You might see 2 or 3 different videos or a couple scenarios, and then you're recertified. You take the ABC test and you're recertified.
That is
I'm telling you, there's nothing
scary.
wrong with that.
No, that's scary.
There isn't. But what we do, and I equate that to a community college where we're 100% Ivy League, where we're putting on a crazy, crazy.
Joe Cortez and Kenny Bayless and these
Amazing
old timers.
referees.
They didn't have to go through.
They did.
But it just wasn't as intense.
But I can't speak for what they went through. So I got to put that out there. I don't know what they went
It
through.
was just a different time, different.
But I'll tell you,
just more advanced now.
those
today.
guys were some of the best to ever
Oh, yeah.
step in the ring.
Right.
They did some amazing fights. I'm telling you, Tony Weeks, to me.
We
if
love
it-
Tony. He
if
lives
it-
here now,
yeah,
right?
if it wasn't
Joe
for Tony,
Cortez lives here.
If
They
it
live
wasn't
here.
for Tony Weeks, we may never have my favorite fight of all times, and it might be one of the best fights ever, which was Diego Corrales against Castillo. Oh. Without Tony Weeks in that,
Man.
watch it. Watch it again.
I have.
Okay,
I'll
without
watch it
Tony
again.
Weeks,
I'll watch it again.
90% of other
Joe Goosen in the corner.
Oh,
man.
90% of referees would have stopped that fight 2 rounds earlier, and we never would have had that amazing outcome. Now, those 2 fighters were never the same, and unfortunately, we lost Corrales to a
Yeah.
motorcycle accident. But those 2 fighters, and the funny thing is, I wasn't even in the amateurs yet. I was watching that fight at home, and I had people over, and
Pulling
my
your
friends
hair
don't
out.
understand boxing like I did even back then.
You're
but I
watching
said,
it
you
from a
guys,
different angle, too.
you don't understand
What's happening
what
here.
we're watching here.
Yes.
We're watching one of the best fights ever in history. And these 2 guys will never be the same again. They'll forever be connected, but they're never going to be the same. They're taking
that's
a couple
like-
years off their lives.
Yeah,
tonight.
that's like Ward Gotti
Oh.
round 9. Right?
Oh,
I mean, 'cause
Ward Gotti, all 3 of their
yeah,
fights. I mean,
all
any
three
one
of
of their fights. Yeah, for sure. And those guys were forever connected. They were like brothers after those battles. But those guys were great. So I can't speak on what they went through, but this is something that this isn't part-time for me. It's full-time, and I talk boxing every day.
So I mean, like you have to study those guys
All the
right?
time, yeah.
Over the years, especially as you're coming up. Like, who did you study the most? Like, if you're named 2 or 3, like who would you say you watched a lot of?
And again, I hate to sound like this, but we're in an era now where you can't look at the old guys anymore.
'Cause
We
it's
don't do
yeah.
boxing like that anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay? That was the old, this is how we used to
Thank
do it. This is how we were trained. This is how we always do it. You can't
That's a
do
good
that
point.
anymore.
That's a
You
really
have
good
In
to
a
learn
sport,
how-
you
yeah.
have to evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, why did the NFL get away from leather helmets? Okay?
yeah.
You have to evolve. And we have to take care of these fighters. They're still going to the winners get hurt. You know what? But
Yeah.
we got to evolve. And how do we make it better? How do we make it where it's sustainable? And
that
we
wouldn't
just,
that fight wouldn't have happened today.
Today, no. And I have those conversations. I've had it with my commission, and I've had it with Nevada as well.
Thank you
You-
for saying Nevada right.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. What do people say? Nevada?
Nevada,
No, it's
oh my
Nevada.
gosh, yeah.
But I've had the conversations where, safety is paramount, obviously.
Of course.
Absolutely.
But I think we're leaning just a little too much on safety sometimes, where we may be pulling the plug a little too early. And hear me out on this one. These fighters, and I'm not talking about 4-rounders, guys. 4-rounders, you pull the plug early. We don't have enough tape on them. They don't know how to survive being hurt sometimes.
They're very early
That's a
in.
different
Yeah.
story. I'm talking about your established fighters that are fighting for titles, 10 and 12 round fights. You got to take them out a little bit deeper waters. And what I mean by that is they train 6, 8, 10 weeks sometimes. They know how to overcome adversity. They know how to get knocked down and get up.
Get back
they
up,
know how
yeah.
to fight off the ropes or survive for a round or two and come back. We got to allow them to dig deep sometimes and pull that inner will out of them and hear the corner tell them, they're motivational and allow them to try to come back. Again, without compromising too much of the safety, but sometimes I think, we got to let them go a little bit deeper sometimes where we're getting a little too cautious. And again, don't get me wrong. I'd rather stop too soon than way too late.
Yeah, but this is what you do for a living. You're a professional. Like, at what point to stop them.
Well, you hope you
Thomas
do.
knows.
You hope,
This is
you
why
hope
I'm a
you do.
really, really, really big fan. He knows. He's known. I was reading comments earlier on a fight that happened this past weekend.
Yeah.
It was a corner stoppage, and all the comments, at first, the comments were like, that was the worst ref call, and then somebody else corrected them, and they're like, no, that was the corner. And everybody's like, no,
Two
Thomas
sides.
would never.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, no, Thomas would never. Thomas knows better. He's known for not stopping too early. He's known for stopping at the right time, which is a sign.
Remember one thing, though. What he sees 2 feet away.
Very different
It's
than
very
what
different
we
from what we're
see.
seeing on
This is
television
what
or
I'm
we're
saying.
seeing-
How come no one has interviewed you? You're
know?
literally the third man in the ring, the closest person.
Have you been?
Guys,
closest angle?
No offense, I turn down a lot of interviews. I just do.
Well, that's
I
not
don't.
offensive. In
Yeah.
fact, it's
Well,
the opposite.
Have you been in that predicament? I mean, tell us the predicament where you felt where it was close. I mean, because
you guys,
almost 800 fights. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, we've had to been in some many tough situations. Give me one.
My
Name
biggest
one.
controversial fight ever, and I don't even call it controversial, but let me break it down for you. It was Acosta against Soto.
Soto. Okay.
Acosta is a champion. Soto's coming in as a challenger.
Yeah.
They're fighting for the WBO world title fight in Fantasy Springs.
Yes, I remember that
California.
fight.
Great all action fight. I mean, you're talking 112 pound, 114 pound. They're like jackrabbits in there, guys. So they're throwing 70, 80, 90 punches. They're all over the ring. It's a very exciting fight. Acosta's a champ. He gets dropped twice early in the fight, but he's coming on strong later on in the fight. And by all means, now again, I don't keep score while I'm in there, but for me, it appears that yes, he may have been able to eliminate those 2 knockdowns, and it looks like he's in control of the fight. But in the 12th round,
Wow, not the 12th.
the 12th round. The 12th round, he just gets stuck hard, and he freezes, and everything in his body freezes, and his head's right out here, and Acosta is winding up to just rip his head off, and I jumped in, and I was telling you a little bit earlier. There's a photographer who has a great picture. Acosta has his arm, and you see every vein just where he's ready to unload, and I jump in and throw his arm away and grab Acosta, and I hold him up against the ropes.
Good call.
Everybody went
I saw the
crazy.
fight. Good call. But what did the
Golden
public?
Boy went crazy. It's their fighter.
Yeah.
The head of Golden Boy turned around and walked out of the arena. And I'll tell you the conversation we had after that. But so I stopped the fight. A lot of people were upset. It was a high. Everybody there was on Acosta. Was in the crowd was for Acosta.
Of course.
But a couple things on that. You had 50% of the media hated the stoppage. 50% loved the stoppage.
Yeah.
When you're down the middle, you think you pretty much, in my opinion, you did something right. The WBO reviewed it multiple times. They loved the stoppage. My commission was a little bit, we don't know, might have been a little early. I was put on the shelf for just a little bit, a few months, which is okay. That's their prerogative, And honestly, they think and I believe they did it because they want to protect the referees. But going back to Acosta, it wasn't until 2 years later I found out that night his head trainer, when they were in the back, his head trainer said, I agree with the stoppage.
Wow.
They fired him on the spot. But listen to this. This is what he tells me after the fact. He said, Acosta, it was so hard for him to make weight. He was so severely dehydrated at the weigh-ins.
Oh
he
my
had problems walking
gosh.
to the elevator and back.
That is deadly.
So here's the thing. And I tell people this all the time. I love that we can debate that maybe it was an early stoppage, maybe it could have gone a little bit longer, because Acosta's still standing and he's still fighting and he still
He's
still
alive,
went home to
yeah.
his family. A couple punches later, we may be talking about a guy in a hospital, relearning how to eat and feed himself and all that kind of stuff. So it's a fine line, guys, and it's not something to be taken lightly. That's why when we get these new referees that come in, and they're 10, 15 fights in and they want to know when they're going to do their first title
That's
fight, or
what I said,
when am I going to be
yeah.
on TV? And it's like,
That's
is that
why
what you're
it's
in here for?
scary.
Because that's not the right way. That's not the right
Correct.
thing to be thinking
That's
about.
not
People
why we're
lives
here.
at stake here.
Yeah.
That's why I
And-
said
and-
it's scary that these guys are getting recertified just by going to these.
Well, and we got to, there's so much at stake, guys. When you're talking about a title fight, I mean, how many punches
Their
did it take for them to get
careers,
here?
their health.
This is big money for them. This could set their families up for years.
Yeah.
If you stop it too soon or stop it too
Oh,
late,
I'd be pissed.
You
Yeah.
set a guy back a few years where now they got to go and take how many more hundreds of punches just to get back to that state where they can try to. So it is
Or
a
they're
really
done-
fine
or they're
line.
done
Or they're done
Forever.
altogether.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line, and it's not to be taken lightly, and it's at least for me, I take it incredibly
What an
serious.
honor.
And
Yeah.
it's and again, it's their livelihood. We got to be careful what we do in there.
Wow.
What an honor. You mentioned running around the ring. That takes tremendous, just stamina as well, and you have to be in shape.
Try to,
Well, I would
yeah.
like to think that you have to be in shape. Some referees are not in the greatest shape, but clearly you are. What's your 54 years old? You look like freaking a Ken doll. What's your
You're making me look like
Yeah,
shit.
I
Okay?
what's your how do you keep up? You don't box, so what do you do?
sickening. It's a little sickening, but I'm up at 3 a.m. every morning. I hit the gym. I go that early because I can't stand the crowds. Hence, not doing a lot of interviews or anything like that. I just don't like crowds at the gym.
3
So I hit
a.m..
the gym at 3. I do about an hour's worth of heavy weight training, and then I do cardio for 20 minutes. And then I'm fortunate. I can go back home, take a shower, and I fall asleep like that. So I can
Rest a
go back to
little
sleep
bit.
for 2 hours before I have to wake up for my day job. So, and it's something I've done ever since my son was born, because I never wanted to take away time with my son at nighttime.
Yeah.
So I started working out early in the mornings, and it's stuck for the last 18, 19 years.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh, 19 years of
Nice.
waking up at 3 a.m.
So let's talk about some other stuff with boxing. You've been all over the world, right?
Oh.
I mean, so tell us
Places I
about-
never dreamed about, you guys. Unbelievable. I mean, Bangkok. When am I going to go to Bangkok,
Oh,
right?
I love Bangkok.
So do I
Well, those
now.
are the
But
experiences
it wasn't
I
on
wanna-
my bucket list right away.
Yeah, I mean, those are experiences I want to
Yeah.
know about. So you've been all over the world, and
You guys.
tell me, where's your-
Japan, Bangkok,
yeah.
Japan, Bangkok,
Saudi.
Russia, Saudi Arabia.
You were at Saudi, yeah.
Australia,
Moscow.
Germany, all over Mexico.
Wow.
Where's your favorite? Like out of all the travels,
I'm, and a lot of people laugh at this because when you start off in boxing, you start doing your small titles in Mexico.
In Mexico.
Right? And it's like, oh, we'll send you down to TJ. Or we'll
Tijuana.
send you to Tijuana. We'll send you
Tijuana.
here or there. But I've always loved the Mexican culture. I don't know why. I do know why. I love their family structure. I love the way it's all about family. I love the food, of course.
Yeah.
But my favorite place ever, Mexico City.
Really?
I did a
Oh, I
world
do
title
love
fight in
Mexico
Mexico City.
City.
Got there 2 days early, toured the city, went into this old church, you guys, that had these arches that went from outside the church through the inside of the church.
the
back on
architecture
outside.
in Mexico City
And
is
to think that
amazing.
these things were built
The churches
before
have a lot of
cranes.
history.
Before cranes were even invented.
Mm-hmm.
So to build these just unbelievable churches. So to go through those and some of this, I mean, it just, Mexico City, hands down.
Walk
is my
outside
favorite.
and have some street tacos.
Amazing food.
Although it's
and you know
changed
what's
a lot,
funny?
I'm
I go
sure.
there and I sit down and the servers always bring over pica de gallo. I'm like,
God.
I'm not your typical gringo. Give me the hot stuff. I want the hot stuff. So it's funny, but no, it's Mexico City is probably my favorite. Yeah,
Wow.
by far.
That's amazing.
So, how about here in the state? Like, so where do you handle most of your refereeing? Is it here in California?
Where are you licensed?
Well, I'm licensed California, Arizona, New York, Nevada. I was licensed in Texas. I unfortunately let it lapse, but I can renew it. Washington, Georgia. So I've done fights in all those states.
Wow, 6 states.
But most of my business is California, where I live. They're my bread and butter.
Yeah.
We do about 110 shows a year just in boxing. A lot of them are club shows, which are great because you pick up a lot of, you just, a lot of crap happens in those. A lot of headbutts, a lot of knockdowns, stuff like that. So you stay sharp. And then I was very fortunate 2.5 years ago to get the call from Nevada to come out and do the Tank Davis and Gervonta Davis fight. And I'm sorry, Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia fight. And to get that call.
That was your first fight here in Nevada?
First fight ever. They'd never brought somebody out for a main event on pay-per-view like that before. And unfortunately, they had a situation with a couple of the referees where things happened.
So if you're, why would, I mean, 'cause every state has a commission. Why would they bring someone from California?
Ooh.
Right?
Well,
Right.
Experience, a big high caliber fight. I mean,
I'll tell you, a year before, I tried getting licensed in Nevada, and they said no, thank you, thanks, but no thanks.
We're tough.
We got it. We got enough
enough.
referees.
Okay.
And then January just before the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, after Russell Mora retired, which was an outstanding referee, his last 4 or 5 years is everybody's, dream career. He did some of the most amazing fights, and just a really good friend of mine now. But when he retired, I thought, let me throw the application out again. And thanks, no
Boom.
thanks. And I'm like, okay. No, it was thanks, no thanks. And then unfortunately, like I said, leading up to the Garcia and Tank Davis fight, there were a couple of situations where they had situations with their current referees that they didn't feel comfortable. And they actually reached out to my executive officer for his opinion on who they could bring in. And I got the call about literally, you guys, the fight was on a Saturday. I got the call the Thursday before that. Could you, submit all your information? We want to license you. And then the Tuesday before the event, I found out I was doing the Tank Davis.
Man, that's a mega fight.
That's huge.
That was
How
mega,
far in
yeah.
advance do you typically get notice for a fight?
The Canelo fight, this past one, I found out 3 weeks in advance, which is rare.
I don't think that's
not
a lot.
It is.
That's a lot?
That's
Oh, yeah,
plenty.
totally.
How do you plan your life around that?
Well, and again, fortunately, where I'm at right now, I look at the schedule and I kind of keep between Nevada and California. I kind of keep those dates open whenever something's being announced, just so in case I do
You're
get
like
the call.
hopeful that you'll get the call.
So
hopefully.
these mega fights. I mean, I really need to know like the pressure. I mean, yes, you're a veteran now, right? But do you still feel any pressure from these mega fights, or are you just so? I mean, you're just so comfortable
Andrew,
that.
I walk into a 4-round fight and I feel pressure.
Okay.
I get the butterflies before
This
my
guy gets
4-round
so
fight.
excited.
I mean, the energy's there, but we're just like fighters. And, the first 30 seconds, 45 seconds of that first round, you're a little nervous. I mean, if you're not nervous, I think you need to step away.
Yeah, a good point.
But you're a little nervous, and then you get into the flow of the fight, just like the fighters do. And then it's a
Everything
fight.
disappears, yeah.
And, the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight was my first really mega fight.
Gosh.
And I'm doing it in Vegas, pay-per-view.
Can you imagine that?
I mean, this is for referees. This is our mecca,
There was
guys.
like an
Vegas is our
iconic picture
mecca.
of you when he was on the
So
ground.
Boxing capital of the world.
I get this call, and I get to Vegas, and I call my very good friend Jack Reese, and I told him this was on Friday. The fight's on Saturday. I said, look, I'm going to call you tomorrow morning at 10:30. I don't want this long dissertation. I don't want a poem. I said, I want one nugget. Give me one nugget for this fight. So 10:30 next morning, I call him, and he goes, look. He goes, I'm going to steal this from Mike Tyson. And they would ask Mike, what do you think of leading into these big fights? And how do you feel? Is there pressure? And he goes, look, leading up to it, yeah, there's all this excitement and everything. But when you get in the ring and the bell rings, it's just another fight. Just another fight. So I went into that Garcia fight, and that's how I go into these bigger fights. Is when I get in there, it's not Crawford, it's not Canelo, it's red corner, it's blue corner, and I'm going to call it the way I see it. And
how do you do that though? Because you love boxing. How do you keep an unbiased opinion? How do you do that? Not everybody can do that. I know I couldn't.
I can't. I mean, it just you can. We owe it. We owe it to the sport. We owe it to the fighters. We owe it to their families. Think about it. Their families are without their fighters for 6, 8, 10 weeks.
So
it's hard on their
yeah,
families.
yeah.
We owe it to the stakeholders, guys, from the promoters to the commissions to everybody who has anything invested in this event.
Promoters,
To the
managers.
Hello,
managers,
to
everybody,
the
and the fans. They pay money,
absolutely.
whether they're watching on TV or they're paying their hard-earned money to be in that stadium to watch it. We owe it to everybody, and you have to go in there unbiased. You cannot have. I mean, I had to stop being a boxing fan when you become a referee. You just can't have favorites. You can't have anybody that you're pulling for. It's red corner, blue corner. Call it the way you have to call it, and that's it. We owe it to
Wow.
them, and we owe it for the sport. I mean, we don't need to give the sport a black eye.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of black eyes, have you ever taken a punch?
I have once.
accidental.
I have once, but not to the body. It was when I was coming in to say time at the end of a round,
You
and a
took
punch
one?
was midair, and I took it on the forearm.
Ah, okay.
So it was more, at the end of a round, putting your arm up to stop the action. But as far as anywhere else, no, because if you do, you're losing concentration, you're out of position,
Okay.
or you're just relying more on your what am I trying to say? More on your reputation,
Yeah.
because when I say that, I see sometimes older referees getting it because, well, I've been around a long time. They know who I am. They're going to respect what I say. Guess what? It's a fight. They don't
It's a
care
fight,
who you
yeah.
are.
So,
you
so position. What do you mean position? Like you have to, because at some point you have to be ready to go in for the break.
Exactly.
Right. So do you
the
position yourself
break
within a foot or two?
or especially end around mechanics. I mean, you want to position yourself where you're between the two fighters. You want to have your weight on your back foot with your front foot light, and you want to you're coming in at an angle so you can come in and
Gosh,
up
there's
with
so
your
many
arm.
mechanics to it.
Yeah, of course. Come on. What do you think?
And with the way I train, at our sole arbiter training is a lot of guys come in with their fingers open and stuff like that. A couple things are going to happen. A fighter's going to throw a punch and you're going to break a finger. Or for me, at 6 feet, I'm 6 feet tall, and I'm in with some of these guys who are 5'6", 5'7". If I come in with an open hand and their head is forward, if I poke them in the eye
shoot.
and I damage your eye, now what do we
shoot.
have? Now we got to stop a fight because of an accidental injury from the referee. So there's mechanics to everything, and there's a purpose and a philosophy behind everything we do. We don't just go out there and do it. There's
yeah.
purpose and philosophies behind everything.
I also noticed that you're really great at staying out of the way. That's one of my favorite things about you. You're never in the way. You're not blocking the view. You're not in the camera's view. We forget that you're even in the ring.
Well, I try to be cognizant of that, and what I mean by that is the biggest thing is we have 3 people that need to judge that fight that night, and their
Yeah.
job is
Yes.
just as important. So I'm very cognizant of where my judges are, because you never want to be standing in front of a judge. Now, I'm not going to move for a judge and compromise safety, because if a guy's taking a beating on the ropes, I'm going to stay where I need to stay in case I got to jump in and stop it. But for the most part, I always know where my judges are. I try to stay out of the way. I mean, they're not there to see us. And one of the better compliments I've ever gotten was from just about every camera crew I've ever worked with, whether it be ESPN, Showtime, back when Showtime
Yeah.
was still,
Yeah, Showtime.
but
Showbot.
even DAZN and these guys, they have a nickname for me, and they call me Mr. Invisible. They're like, you're never in our camera view, you're never in our way. And that's the way it should be. We should be out. We should try to stay in the triangle where we can see the middle of the fighters and far enough back where I can see from head to toe, so I can see any kind of foul, any kind of trip maybe. But, you got to be quick enough to be able to get in and react when something does happen, and then just back the hell out of the
It
way.
is not that easy doing.
It's
what you
it takes a
do.
lot of
It's
practice
not.
and a lot of training, but
You know,
we
you-
owe it, again, we owe it to the sport and to the fighters.
Yeah, you talked about just looking at the crowd and soaking it in right before a fight. I mean, do you ever just sit up there and go, "Wow, how did I get here? Like, what am I doing
Every
here?" Like,
time I get the call, and I tell them
So
from
blessed.
Nevada, I go, every time you guys call me, I'm like, pinch myself. I can't believe Nevada just called me and asked me to come back again. It's an absolute honor. And what we don't, and again,
So
another thing,
well-earned
another
honor,
thing I
yeah.
talk about, with people we train is, we're part of a professional sport. How freaking lucky
Yeah.
are we that we can say we're part of a professional sport? We get to share a ring with unbelievable athletes, some of the top athletes in the world, the best conditioned athletes. We get to I mean, I was in an event,
gonna
I
be
was
in
in
the
an
history
amateur
books.
show the other night, and I sat
Thomas.
down and I was talking to Sugar Ray Leonard, and we were talking like we were friends.
Thomas,
Sugar Ray Leonard,
you
are
are
you kidding
so
me?
humble. You're so
Are you kidding
humble.
me?
You're
You
my
really
Sugar
are.
Ray Leonard right now. You are the Sugar Ray Leonard of today.
We're incredibly fortunate.
how does it feel knowing you're going to be in the history books, right? It's just crazy.
I don't think about it like
Like
that.
that,
I don't. I just history will take care of itself. We'll let the writers and all those people decide that. I just want to ref the next fight and do the best job I can.
Aren't you in the Guinness Books of World Records?
I am. Well, here, not my name personally. I think my name does show in there. But I was in a fight, a 10-round fight, that between the two fighters, they threw over 3,200 punches in a 10-round fight, and it was Soto Carras against
Soto Carras.
Soto Carras against this kid named he was out of the desert. I only know him as a Rooster.
Okay.
Just really entertaining kid.
Was
But-
that the StubHub?
no, it was
okay.
at Fantasy Springs.
Fantasy Spring. Okay.
Fantasy Springs again. It was a Golden Boy show. But you guys, the bell would ring, Soto Cross would come across the ring, put them right up against the ropes, and they never left the ropes. And all they did was slug at each other. And they just punched the hell out of each other. And all I
That's
did
a
was
good
slowly
fight,
make
I'm
my
sure.
move back and forth on both sides, make sure there was no blow. It was actually an easy fight
Oh, my
because all I had to do
gosh.
is say stop at the end of the round. There was no fouls, nothing bad, but they would just
They were throwing.
over 3,200 punches in a 10-round fight. So it made the Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know if my name's in there, like the referee was this, but it was the fight I did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, funny stuff.
Well, what do you want to go down in the like Guinness, record?
You know, at the end of it all, you know, if they say that he was fair, he always gave the fighters a chance, and he was never biased, and he trained like he was a fighter just because they deserved it. And
Yeah.
if they could say that and say that, you know, we always knew we were going to get a fair fight when he was in the ring, that's all I care about. That's all I care about.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm sure you have a whole lot of fans that you don't know about, clearly, because you don't have social media, so you can't even see what people are saying about you. It's nothing but
probably a
great
good thing.
things.
It's
I
probably a good
guarantee
thing.
you.
I don't know.
I'm
It's
still
nothing
blown
but
away
great
that he doesn't
things.
have social media. I just.
Well, he's
It's just
54.
crazy.
Well, I will say this. No.
54. Like
what?
that matters. We don't know how to use social media at our age.
You don't know how to use yours, Andrew.
Whatever on this one. But I will say this. It is a little taboo to have social media as a boxing
Yeah,
referee.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you
That
talk
makes
to any
sense.
one of the sanctioning bodies, they all monitor social media. They watch
Yes.
these referees.
best way to keep your job,
and
I'm
it's
sure.
it's not good, some of the things that they post, and it does, I would imagine, keep them from getting opportunities because it's just you don't want to draw that attention. At least for
That
me,
makes a
I
lot of
just don't want
sense.
to draw the attention.
Yeah, keep it unbiased.
Yeah.
No, but stop it. You took my train of thought away. What would you like to tell your fan base? If that feels weird to say for you because
Your
you're
followers,
so humble.
people follow you.
Yes,
I mean,
your
come on.
followers.
But
You know,
what would you
what
like
do you
to
wanna
tell them? This is your opportunity.
When you got an opportunity to talk to a referee or to a boxing judge, ask them questions. Ask them why. You know, I think as a referee, and I've said this all along because I used to see my buddy Jack do it, and I'd watch him talk to fans and he'd educate them, and I'm like, dude, it's our job to be an ambassador to this sport.
Of course.
You know, so when a fan comes up to you and they're, you know, why did you do this or why did you stop it? You know, don't combat them. Let them, you know, get all their frustration out and then educate them. Teach them, you know, this is why we did what we did. Here's the philosophy behind why we stopped that fight or we did this. And it's funny when you do that, they're all built up like this and you see their shoulders start to drop and then they go, oh, wow, I never knew that. And then you tell them, the next fight party you have, you can be the smartest person in the room and you educate
Explain that.
your
Educate
friends.
them.
So, you know, educate yourself in the sport that you want to be passionate about. If you're a fan, educate yourself. Find out what the judging criteria is. So when you're at home, you can try judging and see just how
Yes.
difficult it is. Or find out what the rules and regulations are for referees. And you watch a fight and understand why we do what we do. And don't be afraid to talk to us because, I love talking to fans, when they ask questions. I love educating because it just, to me, an educated fan is a much better fan than somebody who watches a fight and goes on social media and posts something that they have no idea what they're talking
Rage
about.
bait. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't know anything
Exactly.
about it. Well, I appreciate your time. I mean, truly, this is a huge, huge honor. I don't know when you're going to be able to do another interview. So I am truly, I'm extremely happy and grateful that you flew out for us. You came out here last minute and you did this for us. So I really, really, really appreciate your
I will
time.
say this.
This is such a huge
I will
honor.
always make myself available for you too. Anytime you want it. We can always talk after a major fight or something. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But it was my honor, honestly. It's humbling to be asked, and it was very nice to come out.
Well, we want to be respectful of your time because I'll tell you, I could sit here for 5 hours. I could sit here for
We can
Dude,
yeah.
I could talk
I could
boxing
talk
as long as you
all
want, bro.
yeah.
I can talk boxing as long as
Yeah.
you want. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for coming out. We
it's-
just really
it was my
appreciate it.
honor.
I just really enjoyed the conversation. We really
Yeah.
did.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you so
both.
much.
Appreciate
Thank you.
both.
Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and close out. Thank you again.
What an amazing show.
yeah.
Amazing show. It doesn't get better than this. I'm just to be in your presence. What an amazing show. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. So be sure to follow us on our social media
Yeah.
networks.
And the website.
Boxing VIP Network.
Yep.
Go to theboxingvip.com where you can watch all of our videos.
Yeah.
And tell friends about it. Please like us Follow us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's social
And-
media stuff you're talking, right?
Social media.
I'm just joking.
You can close your ears. Yeah.
And Thomas Taylor, thank you again for coming out. We appreciate
you,
it.
thank you,
guys.
thank
Appreciate
you.
you both.
Thank you.
Whoa, whoa. Ooh, yeah, yeah.